So here we are in Birmingham, or we're in the suburb of Digbeth, aren't we? We've had a bit of an adventure round on our way to where we're starting today. Reason we're here, we did two videos, closing end of last year, and it was all about your visit to New York in the High Line.
That's right, yeah.
The disused railway viaduct that's been made into a public park. Now, last year, I think it was last year, this old viaduct in Birmingham that we're going to see today, the Duddeston Viaduct.
Correct, yeah.
Has gained approval to be turned into such an urban park. So this is a tramway under construction. It's all going on in Digbeth. I'm not up on Birmingham's tram system. I don't know what the current expansion situation is, but look, this here, I assumed it was under construction, but I don't know. Is this going ahead? It looks to be a little bit abandoned to me. This is Bordesley station. Now this station's quite unusual and it only has one passenger service stopping here a week. Oh, this one's not stopping. But anyway, a little disturbance by the train there, John. This viaduct that we're in search of today is just leaving. Peels off to the right. We can't see it, can we, from here? You can't really see a lot, to be honest, can you, from this end of the station? How far up's the viaduct?
I think it's about 150 metres that way, is it?
So it's just out of view. There's too many trees. Anyway, you'll see on the maps, the viaduct that we're going to be looking at is flanking off in that direction.
I think it's round there. It is within sightable distance, but I think it's just hidden by its vegetation.
Look at the disused tracks either side, look. Only two running lines, but there's partial track there and then, yeah, space for another track on that side. It's still disused at the moment, isn't it, John? It's not...
Yeah, it's disused, and in fact it was never really properly used at all ever. When there's a bit of a story about that, we'll tell you later, but just a little bit of track was laid on it and that was it, which is at this end. So it's never been fully used. It's shown as disused on the maps from the late 1800s into the early 1900s, and as they say, they're not sure if funding's in place, but planning type approval has been granted.
They've got the go ahead for it to...
Step one,
yeah,
go ahead's been granted. So yeah, we can see down here, that's where it's starting to branch off.
Oh wow, look at this retaining wall.
So this is what I thought would make a good entrance point.
So we've just been stood on Bordesley station, just literally just behind us. So I'm assuming this retaining wall that we've started going off here, John, is where the line starts to...
It's where it starts to veer...
To separate.
Towards the junction point.
And it's arcing out there, and the viaduct we can see in front is...
That is our viaduct.
Our viaduct. Now, John just touched on it just then. This viaduct's never been used. It was never opened. It was built, but it was never brought into use, and we'll get into the whatnots and wherefores.
Yeah, why that happened.
As we go through the video. So we can't get on this viaduct. There's going to be a lot of walking along, pointing upwards, showing you a lot of this blue brick arches as we go through this area of Birmingham. But you can just see even from here, look at the vegetation on top. It looks well overgrown. I mean, you can even see that if you just have a scout round on Google Maps.
Yeah, it almost already is a viaduct garden in itself.
It is, yeah.
There's a little part up there which is used for, it's actually been like renovated and used for weddings, receptions and stuff. So it's starting to get used.
Just look at the arches on this retaining wall though, John. And all these spans. Spans are numbered, look, span 36. And we can see the viaduct, look, just peeling off to the right-hand side. Do we know how many arches are on this viaduct, John?
It's 57 or 58.
Really, that many?
Yeah. I'll check. 58.
58.
Now, whether that was 58 when it was constructed or not, because there are some missing parts.
Yeah.
At the other end, I'm not sure. I'm not going to be counting them today, that's for sure.
It's a very intriguing area, isn't it?
Oh, it is. I love this area. It's not. You can't say it's boring.
No.
Look, there's stuff always going on. Look. What?
What are you looking at there? Where that arch?
Yeah.
It's like a steel pillars and holding up the viaduct. There's some nice open shots of this, can't you? It's not just...
Yeah, so there was loads of different angles on it.
Liverpool Street. So it will see a break in the viaduct, look. So we've got this old dilapidated building here, just literally underneath what would have been a span. Building built after the bit of viaduct was pulled down, and I wonder if this was like a girder span or something.
That's it. Obviously, perhaps it was closed very soon after it was constructed.
I mean, are we sure that they actually finished building the viaduct?
On the maps, it seems to indicate so, that it was complete at that stage.
And this is an interesting point, and more so after doing a little reading once I got home. Although showing complete on maps from the 1880s, maps from the turn of the century show it broken at this location. Did they ever actually get round to installing the girder spans at this location? This photo from 1924 confirms that the sections are missing. Noted that there is also a rake of wagons on the viaduct too, which was used as a head shunt on this complete section for the goods shed back near Bordesley station. Public convenience on a street corner.
It's just dilapidatedly falling apart.
Dare you have a look inside, John?
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Good lighting, you've been taking a wee. That's what we call an open air lab.
There's nothing really to show you inside, it's just loads of stuff dumped, that's all.
Full of junk. So the 1885 map does seem to indicate the viaduct was finished, but you just don't know if that's truly finished or not, or if it's just an imagination of what it would have looked like.
Different size arches, aren't they, as well?
Everything's different.
One of them. And this is going over. What's this? Is this the?
It's a canal.
Is it the Grand Union?
It's the Warwick and Birmingham Canal.
The Warwick and Birmingham Canal. Just have a look at the Warwick and Birmingham Canal, because this goes underneath our viaduct.
It's going to need a lot of work on it.
I wonder if they are going to leave a lot of the vegetation up there, John. I wonder if there's going to be a massive job of clearing it and putting stuff on there, making it into a garden like they did at Castlefield.
I think the Castlefield one is the model, isn't it? Kind of like you leave some or you recultivate some.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be a garden concept, isn't it? It's to get you out of the city, get some views, get some fresh air. So yeah, at least some of it.
Will definitely be an interesting walk if and when it finishes.
Yeah, bird's eye view of Digbeth.
This reminds me of, Jan, is when I went to Leicester and all the great central arches through there, and they've kind of left little segments of it around.
Yeah, just
and even in the suburbs out of the city centre, you've got just collections of arches.
And they've been sort of in some places reused, some places just left to rot.
Yeah, just left to rot. Like this is on another level. I did say it was going to be a lot of pointing the camera up, didn't I, today? Is that the end of it? Is that the end of the visible section? So we've shown you plenty of this viaduct. We've seen a lot of arches and a lot of the decay and vegetation around the viaducts. We've not actually told you any information about it yet.
The point was the viaduct was supposed to connect to Curzon Street station, but then 2 other railway companies effectively owned the land coming into what was going to become New Street station, and effectively blocked it off. Because they were competing railway companies, because they wouldn't let them bridge over it or
so they've
cross
just
over
severed
it.
their plans.
So the plan severed, and then what then happened was, I guess Curzon Street station was usurped by New Street, Birmingham New Street, the station we know now. In fact, there was no point in it anymore, so that was why it was just totally redundant.
Okay.
But these things all happened in the mid 1840s and 50s, basically.
We said that the viaduct was attempting to access Curzon Street station. Now, the politics around the railway companies was a little more complicated than that, but we're generalising here. Strap yourselves in as I do my best to try to briefly explain the shenanigans. The railway company behind the drive into Birmingham was the Birmingham and Oxford Junction Railway, which was operated by the Great Western Railway. Now let's introduce the Grand Junction Railway, who shared Curzon Street with the London and Birmingham Railway. I hope your head isn't getting too fried, as mine was with all those railway company names. Now, that London and Birmingham Railway was somewhat of a competitor to our Birmingham and Oxford Junction Railway, a fact which gave the B&OJ an even bigger headache when the L&BR and the GJR merged to form the London North Western Railway. More dirty tactics followed, and when it became known that New Street would be superseding Curzon Street, it seems everybody knew this viaduct would never see active service, and compounded by the fact, as John mentioned, they wouldn't let our viaduct line cross the new LNWR to New Street, but the LNWR forced the Duddeston viaduct to be completed anyway. And this photo sums it up well, as we can see our viaduct approaching bottom left up to the border of the LNWR land. Curzon Street is instantly recognisable with its arch just above. Something doesn't quite feel right about the trajectory of that line though. That would be one heck of a radius curve to get to Curzon Street. So this end of the viaduct has been demolished. Showing you through here, there's no viaduct there, but this is kind of, we've got the I don't know my railways and things around the Birmingham area. My sense of direction is not great around here. Is that the west coast? Not the main line. Is that it's the main line into New Street, isn't it?
Correct, yes.
Right, okay, so this is what severed the railway here. This is what's prevented the railway going any further. So on those old maps, the viaduct's kind of showing the stopping somewhere over here.
I can't find any source that says exactly when the viaduct was opened, but we know that by 1852, when New Street Station itself opened, that's effectively when there was no viability left, because by that time the Curzon Street Station, which we'll see a bit later, that closed in terms of passenger usage.
When you say this viaduct's open, you mean when it was built?
Yeah.
When it was
when it's constructed. Yeah.
So there we have it, a lasting monument to a turbulent period in railway history, where competing railway companies used political power play to outmaneuver each other to such extents. We must stress, although a concept for a Sky Park has been approved, we're not aware of any timescales or immediate plans. I guess that will depend on how and where the funding plays out. It's interesting, John, to see how they've reused a lot of the arches.
Yeah, so many have been repurposed over the years and then been used, then fallen into disrepair and perhaps been used again.
I mean, look at these, there's different, it's a bit breezy in this arch. Doorways and windows, look.
That's all right, we're saying it's disused viaduct, but it's not really disused because it's been used.
Been used underneath, yeah.
Well, throughout the years.
Just not by the railway. I wonder why they don't just tear something like this down.
Yeah, why did it never get just taken down?
I mean, is it just because the area's not really been fully regenerated?
Yeah. Well, I guess in the period when it was like not fashionable to reuse something like that, like it's planned to be used for as a public amenity. It was just like
Yeah.
cost more to rip it down than to keep it up.
And you get things and buildings start appearing.
yeah, then it's a faff to
more hassle.
negotiate to get rid of it.
And then it just becomes part of the furniture. It's kind of the fabric of the area, isn't it?
Lupo's got his name on it again.
Everyone, the next station is Birmingham Street. If you are alighting at this station, please have your tickets and passes ready for inspection at the ticket barriers. Also, please ensure that you do have all your personal belongings with you, and when leaving the train, mind the gap.
Right, this beautiful. Oh, look at that. That's just absolutely stunning, this. I've never been this close to Curzon Street, to this old building. It was Curzon Street Station. Wow. You might think, why are we showing you this? So we've seen what's left of the railway viaduct. This is where it was heading. This was its ultimate.
That's why it's built. Yeah, to get
to here. I've seen this from the train passing many, many times over the years. Never appreciated the scale of it. Wow.
It's so regal. It looks like it should be an art gallery or
Yeah.
a museum or something.
There was a similar one, wasn't there, at Euston? There was one at Euston.
Right, yeah.
It was demolished. And we're here today talking about the railways past, aren't we? But all this site is all about the railway of the future. This is all HS2. To be honest, the engineering scale of it is impressive. Where you sit on HS2, not into that debate really. The UK needs investment in railways, doesn't it? It needs new railways building. Are they going about it the right way? Is this the solution? That's another debate in itself, but this is where HS2's going to be going, and some of those artist impressions of what the station going to look like. That is a monumental engineering job.
Do you know how many years this was open for passengers originally?
How many?
16.
Is that all?
Yeah. Opened in 1838, closed in 1854.
54.
But New Street opened in 1852, so that was what led to it.
But I think he found the use, didn't it, all the land down?
Yeah, it then became like sort of goods station, I guess, that type of thing.
So let's just visit the history of this station and remind ourselves how it fitted in with our viaduct. As John mentioned, it had a short span as a passenger railway, but the station lived on as a goods station until 1966. The station was jointly built and operated by those railway companies we mentioned earlier, the London and Birmingham Railway and the Grand Junction Railway. It was a terminus for the first intercity line to be built into London, and I suppose its downfall was that it ended up never being able to serve as a through station. The London and Birmingham and Grand Junction Railways became part of the larger London North Western Railway, and in 1954 the LNWR moved into Birmingham New Street, basically making Curzon Street redundant as a passenger station and putting the final nail in our Duddeston viaduct ever making it into Curzon Street. But isn't it quite ironic that almost 200 years later the name Curzon Street Station will reopen as a terminus of a new high-speed line from London?
Look, if you hadn't had enough blue brick for today, you got some more.
Good to come back here in 10 years' time when it's all operational and working, just to see the difference. At least that's being saved, John.
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, and that's incorporated into the design. It's going to be a detached building still, but that's the approach, station approach, and then from a track perspective, and the station's actually being there.
Yeah.
So where that train's going now is just to this side of that will be where the station is. But they're going to keep this pub, which is awesome because it looks like a lovely old pub.
Like you said, it's an
sort of outpost, outlying feature that's just stuck there in the nowhere, but at least they're keeping it. And of course it will probably get a lot of extra trade, hopefully.
Yeah, that would be a different place, this. And there's this end of that HS2 structure, look, so the building here. This is what we could see from the distance, isn't it? This, look.
Yeah.
So these canal locks. are going
That's
to be
steel.
a completely different experience in a number of years once this bridge is in.
Was that temporary? If that's just a temporary thing to hold it up, it is.
Let's go, mate. That's it, John. That concludes today's events in Birmingham. An interesting day for a number of reasons we won't broadcast. But yeah, so it'd be nice to come back here when everything's finished. When the viaduct, if it does get turned into the park, it'll be great to come back and have a mooch on there, won't it?
Yeah, if anything actually starts to happen, I guess we'll be back to see some of the progress. But I think it may be a while. But,
yeah, that's fine. Hopefully we'll still be around. It's good just to have a look around Curzon Street.
there's
and
so
all
much
that.
history around here.
Yeah.
There's so much redevelopment going on.
Ever-changing landscape around here. So I hope that's... we did those 2 videos from Manchester and Leeds. We thought that was going to be it for Highlands.
We did,
in the UK.
yeah.
We've got a few irons in the fire as well, haven't we?
Yeah, other projects we've been in discussions of
We
projects to see if we can do some filming.
Which will all come clear. So anyway, thanks to all channel members. Anyone who buys a coffee supports the channel, sends me a super thanks. So from Birmingham, see you next time. Ta-ra.